Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show. Reminder all over social media, Facebook, X, Blue Sky, and of course our YouTube channel, The Stephen Knight Show. Please subscribe. We appreciate you. All right, so Simone Biles and sports political contributor Riley Gaines exchanged words after Gaines called out a Minnesota high school whose softball team won the state championship with a transgender pitcher. Gaines, who was a swim athlete, had been advocating for the impact of transgender participation in collegiate sports after she tied for fifth place in an NCAA tournament with a transgender swimmer in 2022. She responded to Biles with mention of Larry Nassar. Now, he was the former Olympic doctor whom Biles testified against for sexual abuse. She stated, all the horrific sexual abuse Simone Biles witnessed and spoke out against because one man yet believes women should be forced to strip naked in front of men to validate a man's feelings. Now, Simone Biles clapped back. She said, bullying someone your own size, which would ironically be a male. She also said, Riley Gaines, you're truly sick. All this campaigning because you lost a race. Straight up sore loser. You should be uplifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports more inclusive or in creating a new avenue where trans feel safe to play sports. Maybe a transgender category in all sports, but instead you bully them. One thing for sure is no one is safe, and no one in sports is safe around you. So I've seen a lot of on X, of course, MAGA is all for Raleigh, and they're trolling Simone Biles. But I saw someone post a picture, side-by-side picture of both of them, where Simone has all her medals and Riley has her one medal. And so this is bad. But this argument comes up all the time about transgender athlete, playing in sports. I did like what Simone said, or creating a league for them, or a category for them to play in, because I think it is. I mean, everyone has their own beliefs on it. I personally don't think they should play against women, because of just the hormones and things like that. But I don't know enough about it. But that's what I personally believe. But I do believe they had their own league, so they can still play as well. Chike, what are your thoughts?
Those are exactly my thoughts. Being a track runner for most of my youth and then into college, I ran alongside people that, their desire was to make that a career. That wasn't my goal, but people had been at it way longer than me. They started out in grade school, running races. And, I can only imagine a female participating in a certain sport their whole entire life to get to a professional level. And here comes a transgender person competing and wins and robs you of, a victory that you probably could have had if that person wasn't competing against you. I am all in agreement for having a separate category for trans people. Not saying that I don't want to see trans in sports, not saying that I think that they shouldn't compete at all, because they are athletes. They should compete, but you should compete fairly. I don't think it's fair for you to have a natural ability that's greater than a natural female. And I don't want anyone to get offended, but there's a difference between natural born and trans. There should be trans categories.
Yeah.
That's just my feeling.
One video, it was a basketball game, and there was a trans player. That girl was dunking on them women left and right. I mean, it was not fair at all. She was dunking on them. Brittany, what are your thoughts?
I agree with y'all. I think they should have their own league, like they do co-ed leagues and stuff like that. They should do their own thing. I think that America is in shambles. We argue with everybody. We just last week the Broadway people was fighting on the internet, like duh. Now it's the gymnastic people fighting or the athletes. Like I'm just every week they fighting on the internet.
And honestly, I would think that, okay, just hear me out. I think that if they created categories for trans people, there would be more trans participating in the sports. We would have like a better showmanship simply because you opened it up and you're now being inclusive, as opposed to making a controversial decision to make it, a battle.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree.
They probably
Oh,
don't want to be just separated or categorized as the best in trends. Like that's probably the issue. Like,
I,
yeah, I am the
but there's
best
women and
basketball
then there's
team in
men. You don't have
trends.
the women going against the men. They're two different
I mean,
categories.
I agree with y'all, but I'm just trying to see it from their perspective. Like if they won a championship, they'd be like, yeah, that's the best trans team. Like, not better than the Knicks. You know what I'm saying? Like it would still be kind of like separated.
yeah. There's always going to be some kind of backlash, whatever decision you make.
Yeah,
But
that's probably like their issue. They don't want to be, they want to be the best, period,
right.
or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, well, check this out. So two Chinese researchers have been charged with allegedly smuggling a fungus, I'm not going to try to say the name, into the United States, which is considered to be a potential weapon for agro-terrorism, according to the DOJ. Young John and Zhen Li are citizens of China, allegedly received funding from Chinese government for their research at the University of Michigan. Their work involved fungus that can cause a disease in wheat capable of destroying crops. In a statement, officials noted that the complaint also alleges that Jen's electronics contain information indicating her membership in and loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party. It was further alleged that Jen's boyfriend, Lu, works at a Chinese university where he conducts research on the same pathogen that he first lied about when admitted to smuggling it into America through the Detroit Metropolitan Airport, so that he could conduct research on it in the laboratory at the University of Michigan where his girlfriend worked. That's kind of afraid. As good as they caught that. Brittany, what are your thoughts on this?
Now we're gonna hear Trump rant about that. I think when the riots start, he gonna go back to this, and then it was Elon, and then I just be like, Lord Jesus, now he already mad. He's still mad about them bringing the COVID over here, like
All
so.
right.
It's like now he gonna be mad about this fungus. I be like, Lord, I just anticipate all the arguing on the internet.
Right, exactly. Chica, we just got we've been fighting to stop the Asian hate, and now things like this happen. What are your thoughts?
All I can think about is The Last of Us, because that's what is in that video game. That's the subject, and that's what's in the series,
Yeah,
is a fungus, which is spores, which takes over the human race. So that's a little scary to me. Stop playing around with stuff, y'all, and,
exactly.
and
I
leave it
told
where
y'all
it
them
is. Stop bringing it over here.
conspiracies. Them conspiracies, they be real. We this close to the Walking Dead. We this close.
Mm, 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 mm. All right, well, Real Housewife of Atlanta newcomer Britt Eady shared on Thursday her decision to skip the reunion for season 16. She spoke about the incident where alleged explicit photos of her were displayed at Kenya Moore's hair spa opening last June. In her statement, she stated she wasn't the woman in the photos. Now Eady has filed a lawsuit against Bravo. According to TMZ TV, Eady filed legal documents against Bravo and its parent company, NBC Universal, and the production companies. She claims that they knowingly led the public to think the explicit photos displayed at the event were images of her. Britt says the woman in the image was not her, but she claims the network falsely yet unmistakably implied the photos were her, and later aired the other cast members' reactions to the situation. She also said the network contributed to a hostile work environment and sexually harassed her by exposing her to unwelcome, offensive, and sexualized behavior and comments by requiring her to show up to work after experiencing a gendered attack. Britt seeks at least $20 million in damages, wants Bravo to remove the episode from public access. Andy Cohen later took to Twitter or X, and he said, "This is reaching a level of petty that's beyond anything I've seen." All right, Brittany, I know you were talking about this. So do you think she has a case? So for those that didn't see, her and Kenya had some words at an event. And so Kenya had a opening of her spa and invited all the ladies to come. And she had blown up size pictures allegedly of Edie performing sexual acts and nude and things like that. Kenya was fired for the rest of the season, and now Britt is suing Bravo. She didn't show because they said that she thought that Kenya was going to be at the reunion and that they would be able to address it. And when she found out that this is what I read, when she found out that Kenya was going to be there, she backed out, and now she has this lawsuit. Kenya did apologize to her online after she found out that Britt wasn't going to be there. She said she was disappointed that she wasn't invited, Kenya wasn't, and that she publicly apologized to Brittany. Brittany, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so the photos were in retaliation to Britt's comment about having a gun, which they aired this episode. Britt did threaten Kenya with a gun at an event prior to any of this happening.
Right, that's how
Kenya came in on a different attitude this season, unlike any other Kenya we've ever seen. So I will give her that. Kenya can get real petty and very direct. She did not have any of that energy for Britt, and Britt was looking for a opportunity with her. So, and then in retaliation to that, she met Petty Kenya, and Kenya showed up with them posters. It did insinuate that it was Britt on the thing. I do not think it's because Kenya was not at the reunion. We all knew Kenya had been fired and was not going to be at the reunion, and she still never dropped that she wasn't going to the reunion. I think that there are unaired episodes from what I heard that the rest of the cast, before they film the reunion, get to see the rest of the season that's going to come out. And
so
so that they can talk about it at the reunion. And I think there are things that we as viewers have not seen that maybe she has seen. And then also she's beefing with Kelly. She's beefing with Kenya. She's beefing with Shamia. I think on the last episode, her and Portia kind of had like a little words. I think that her bare naked event was terrible. She fed everybody in the cast and had no food for nobody else. And I think that she just is one of those people, she cannot take the heat, but want to be in the kitchen. I mean, for you to say that they opened you to a hostile sexual harassment environment, she took shots and then showed her titties on the last episode. So
Right.
I'm just,
Yes.
it's the lack of accountability for me. It's just, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody is accountable anymore. So I'm just like, no, she is reaching. I agree with Andy. I also think that I read the comments and I be trying to hear everybody's perspectives on like all these different situations. And I do agree. Bravo fired Kenya without giving Kenya the opportunity to go on an apology tour the way they let Brittany do. And I feel like Kenya was wrong for putting out nudes, but Brittany physically threatened Kenya in that parking lot. And they let Brittany go all next episodes, apologizing, showing up with a bouquet of flowers, but they did not give Kenya the same opportunity. And Kenya pointed out in an interview on a podcast how there have been so many other housewives that have done some really low down things, brought out revenge porn of others, done all kind of like stuff. And Bravo has continued with them. Even if y'all stop filming with Kenya to avoid a lawsuit with Britt, y'all still could have brought her in a different way to the reunion to allow them to at least hash it out, filmed her separately, maybe in a different room than everybody else. There were things that could have been done. And I think that, what's that saying when you smite your nose to save your face and it just don't come out right? You know what I'm saying? Like I think they shot themselves in the foot and they caught the lawsuit anyway. And I don't think it's on stick. I think she reached. I don't think she has no legitimate business.
And my thing, if you have a hostile work environment, why'd you complete the season? Why didn't you after that situation happened? Why didn't you quit the season then? So, you know what I mean?
It could be that contract that's holding her bound, because if she did something outside the binds of the contract, it's all null and void. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts?
reunion would be in the season, in the country. To
I would think
Chiki's
the
point,
reunion too, right?
I
'Cause
would think the reunion. Yeah, I would think that would be a part of the episodes that you're contractually bound to.
yeah,
Yeah, but there are certain stipulations in certain contracts. It all depends, how they structure it. So it could be, your contract is your contract, but if you do blah 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 blah, then this will happen and blah 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 blah. But if you abide by these things, and then these things won't happen. They get really in the minutia of certain things when it comes to these
If
contracts.
if Chike's point is correct and that's the case, they need to start putting in there that we cannot be held liable for arguments amongst the cast, because it's not, like they didn't bring Brie on to talk about how she had a gun in her purse, and they didn't bring Kenya on to expose news. Like, I wonder if they can start putting that, like, a clause in there that be like, we are not, when you get into fights with people, we are not held liable, because she picked a fight with everybody on this season.
I'm
And
sure
Phaedra
at
had to
this
call her
stage in
out.
the game, in the history of reality shows, I'm sure that they have padded themselves to protect themselves from that, because that is pretty much what people are tuning in reality shows for,
right.
is that particular drama.
Yeah.
So all the things surrounding that, um, I'm sure that there's probably in the contract somewhere. But I don't really know too much about this because I don't watch that show,
Right.
nor do I really watch reality TV like that. But I'm going to say she probably saw blood in the water when Kenya was fired. And she's probably looking at, well, if y'all let her go, then that's kind of saying that there was some type of wrongdoing happening. Let's explore that in a lawsuit, and I'm probably going to get something. And sometimes lawsuits aren't about winning the lawsuits. Sometimes people just do a lawsuit to get a settlement.
Yeah,
I
that's what I'm
agree.
thinking. She probably won't get the 20 mil, but she'll get something.
Hmm.
Because Phaedra said she'd be getting around
Right.
with
That's
with
a
rich men.
yeah, that's
Yeah, like that's okay. Atlanta, I don't know.
before we go, I want to congratulate Coco Gauff. She went on to win the French Open against the world number one tennis player Arnaya Salabeka. Anyway, Coco was the first American to win the French Open in a decade since Serena Williams. Shout out to Coco. Congratulations. Brittany, thank you so much for Hot Topics. And Chiki, I'll see you in movie reviews, and we will be right back after this.